Welcome, everybody, to the Independent Mind Podcast. As always, we are your hosts. I am DJ Mixwell, and I am with my boy, Giovanni. How are you doing, brother?
Tired as hell, man, but always happy to be here. Been grinding quite a bit, been quite overwhelmed, but you tackle one task at a time and you get through them all.
Yep, for sure. Before we hop into this episode, if you like what you hear, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. But now let's hop into it. And also, we got the Stay Hungry, Stay Focused shirts too. So hit us up for those. We sold out in the first batch within a day, and we already got the new order coming in next week. So we'll have more of those. But today, our guest is Jason Capps. I actually know him from a program that we're in right now. So it's kind of interesting. Wanted to get somebody on. We always have like people who are business owners and people like on their grind. And this is someone who falls into that category. But I wanted to get someone who I feel I share a similar path with, for sure, since we're in the same program, and someone that can definitely talk about some struggles, overcoming the struggle, and just being on their absolute grind while doing it through. So, Jason, welcome to the podcast, man. How are you?
Hey, what's up, boys? Thank you. I'm doing good. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I wanted to, like I was just saying, I wanted to get somebody on. And I remember when we had that one class the one day, we had kind of had like a quick exchange. That's how I got your Instagram and started following you, which you do absolutely sick tattoo work as well.
Appreciate that.
But yeah, just wanted to kind of get someone on to, I feel a lot of people need to hear, not be able to hear what it's like to be on your grind and to also have some big hurdles in the way too. So I felt like it was only proper to send the invite out to you, and thankfully you accepted it, and now we're here. But for people who may not know you, why don't you give us like a quick little recap about who you are and what you do?
Okay, sure. Yeah. Well, like I said, Jason Capps. Everybody calls me Capps. It's my last name. It's just always been that way. I'm a tattooer these days. I got into tattooing at a pretty young age, actually. Never really did a whole lot with it when I was younger. I had other plans, apparently. But for the past 10 years, I've been hitting it pretty hard. And it works really good for me, man. I've done a lot of different kinds of jobs, mostly construction and stuff. But I just make art and try to stay busy, man. Try to keep moving it.
That's dope, man. Before we like hop into the tattooing and, the grind that you're on, I just kind of want to talk about, we're in the same program, and I hope if you don't want to talk about it, that's cool. But
that's cool, man.
So for people who really don't know, we're basically in a felony program, to basically do a 3-year program. We complete it, the felony drops, and it avoids prison time for all of us. So I kind of want to talk about when did you start drinking, and what was your path like with all that?
Oh, okay. Well, I also started drinking at a really young age. I was raised, my mom owned a bar when I was a kid. And so I would, every day after school, I'd go to the bar. And that was, 10, 11, 12. And, always taking little sips off beers or sneaking cigarettes in the back, or, you know what I mean? So my mom was a real heavy drinker when I was a kid. Everyone in my whole family was a drinker. I'm not trying to say it's all their fault or whatever, but it was something I was always surrounded with, something I was always really comfortable with. A lot of the people that I looked up to at a young age were drinkers, and it was just a natural thing for me to do. And so I didn't start, probably drinking consistently of my own, like seeking it out, until I was in my early teens. Steal a couple of beers there, stuff a bottle of Mad Dog down your pants there. Oof. And just like I said, it was just something that was always normalized for me at a young age, and for a lot of people it is pretty normal, but the excess that I took it for several years, decades.
Yeah, the Mad Dogs are crazy too. Oof.
Yeah, yeah, they're easy to drink when you're 15. You know what I mean? But yeah, well, I wouldn't wish those things on anybody anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure they still make them.
Are those similar to Four Locos?
It's like it's a malt liquor, but
Okay.
they're hella flavored. I have a horror story back in 8th grade of drinking a whole one, the orange one, the Orange MD 2020, and
orange was the worst too.
man, I threw up so bad. I thought I was gonna die that night. Oh man, did you grow up out here in Vegas?
No, man, no, I didn't actually. I spent my time back and forth between Idaho and Arizona. And then in Southern California. Yeah, my mom moved around a lot. But we I would say most of my, like formative young years were spent between Southern California and Southern Idaho.
Okay.
So interesting dichotomy there.
What influenced your take on art? What influenced you to start like really toning into that art and that craft? I mean, you mentioned you've been doing it damn near your entire life.
Yeah, I've been messing with it since I was a kid. Like I said, when I was, 13, I was poking little black flag bars in my buddy's ankles with a staple, bro.
Oh God.
But what influenced me to get into art when I was young, man, I think I was just kind of enamored with like the concept of like, it probably started with like cartoons, bro, like drawings, moving and things like that. Like that just kind of blew my mind, And so that's why I think I started to draw, and then, as I got older, there was, comics and things like that. I'd always, Heavy Metal magazine was a big one. I'd always steal comics or the heavy metals from the IGA store, which is a little grocery store. And they just had them, they had them set up to where nobody could even see you. They were right by the doors. Take a stack of those, stick them in your pants, walk out. And then I'd have all these comics and I'd go home and I'd copy them and I'd read them and I try to, and I just kept copying these drawings that these guys were doing that I just thought were so incredible. And, it just became something that, I was good at, I guess. And so I stuck with it. I got a lot of attaboys for it over the years. So I kept doing it, you know what I mean? And tattooing kind of became something that I got into because, like I said, going and hanging out at the bar. It's a bunch of old bikers and cowboys and stuff. They'd see me drawing in the back and then they'd show me their tattoo or they'd tell me about how they, did this or that, or that's why they got it. And that blew my fucking mind. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, so drawings are tattoos too, and so that kind of planted that seed and that seed just kind of festered and festered till, I was about 17, 18. And my probation officer at the time recommended that I pursued it. Thought it might keep me out of trouble.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn. So you were getting in trouble then.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. With you starting to do art and tattooing, then I noticed you still obviously you just have stuck with it. When did, and I kind of want to bring it back to it as well. When did you first get your DUI? Like, was it out here in Nevada or what was kind of like the path to your 3? Because mine were just like, stupid mishaps. Like, I mean, they are what they are at the end of the day, but mine came at like weird, like random times. Like what was kind of like your path?
At the end of the day, you were drinking and driving. So it's not a mishap. You know what I mean? But
one was smoking.
Oh, really? That sucks.
Yeah.
But the first one I got was actually was my 5th DUI that I got out here. The first one I got was around 2007. I was in Northern California at the time. And I used to stop at this little bar in Fort Bragg, California all the time after work and have a shot and a beer before I headed back home. And I lived in a little town called Little River, which is just outside Mendocino, California, for anybody in that area. And I got pulled over. The dogs, I had these 2 dogs, man. I had beef jerky in the door. So these dogs were jumping on me trying to get at the beef jerky, and I was wobbling a little bit. And the first one, I wasn't even really, I wasn't under the influence by any means. But there was a statey there. He pulled me over. I tried to explain to him the dogs were getting in my lap, and he must have smelled it or something, because he pulled me out and gave me a little blow test and hemmed me up. I had to leave the dogs in the car on the side of the road. You know, he let me call somebody to come get them, but we literally just left them there. Luckily, the girl I was dating at the time was able to get a ride from work to come pick it up. But yeah, they were messing around, man. They gave me 5 years probation. That for my very first one. I just moved to that area. That judge was not impressed. So they handed it to me then, you know. But it was I think I had to do. It was a really, you know. I think I had to do like 30, you know, AA meetings, and it was 60 months probation. Like, that was it. And it was unsupervised the whole time. And I was, you know, I didn't take it seriously at all. I still continued to drink. I still continued to do everything I was doing before, you know, started, you know, involving myself in a lot of other extracurricular things. So it didn't really faze me. It was one of those things like, oh man, whatever, you know what I mean? And so, you know, life kind of continued. A lot of things happened, man. A lot of things happened. The drinking continued to be a staple. You know, life got different. Life got hard. And, you know, I started to really rely on it as a crutch for a lot of things. And there was a period where, you know, shit got really sideways for me. You know, my life was completely unmanageable. And I ended up getting 3 excessive DUIs within 28 days of each other. So the first one I bailed out, the second one I bailed out, the third one they said, you're fucking sitting here, bro. And I got real lucky, because that should have sent me to prison there. And the lawyer I had was a public defender. And I'll never forget this little mousy dude. He came to see me in jail, and I was like, fuck, who's this guy? And, you know, he said, we're going to, you know, I got a plan, but I need you just to, you know, chill for a minute, and we'll get it figured out. So I sat in jail for about a month and a half, waiting for, you know, some kind of word on what was happening. And he ended up getting me tried for my third one before I was tried for my first 2. And somehow that retroactively made them all misdemeanors. Like, the way he did it, it retroactively made the first 2 misdemeanors. So I didn't have any felony, and I was actually put into a DUI court program there. And the judge even said, you know, at the sentencing, he was like, this will never happen to anyone ever again. I don't know how you guys were able to figure this out, but this will never happen again.
Well done on that lawyer.
Yeah, like I said, it was a public defender. I wish I could send that guy flowers every day, man, because he really did save my bacon at that point. But like I said, I was in a real bad place at that time. And so even though I was obviously being very self-destructive, had no care for myself or anybody else at that time. And, you know, even though I was put in the DUI court program that they had, which was much shorter than this one, by the way, this is in Southern Idaho. And I wasn't taking that seriously at all. I was still drinking. And what I would do, that I had a breathalyzer on my truck, and I would take tissue paper, stuff it in the little hole, take a little piece of hose, and I blow through that to start my truck, even though I was drinking the day before. Yeah, I don't know if that would work. So I've obviously never even thought about trying it. I'm in a completely different headspace now. But at that time, anything and everything was an option, because I had to keep drinking. I had to hold on to that. And, you know, it sounds really silly, you know, to look back on it now, that I was so attached to it, you know, but at the time, that's all it was. You know, that was the one constant in my life was coping in that way.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on that part. And I definitely filled a little bit with getting lucky. I had my public defender, because I caught, when I was 18, I caught 2 DUIs within like a 8-month span. Not as fast as yours, but mine was out here in Vegas, and then I was on my way to go headline a club in Reno, and got popped in Hawthorne County. Well, a little bit outside of it, but that's where they transported me to. And they agreed to look at the second one as the first one. And then when I caught my third one last year, I kind of just went from first DUI consequence, because what I had to do out there is or more so what I had to do out here was just copy my class papers and then just fax them over to Northern Nevada. and they were easy. It was like a class or two, a fine, and that was really about it. And then, so I got let off easy. And then once when the third one came, it was like, boom, real life hit. And it was like, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy.
Hey,
so
Jason, just very quickly, you were talking about like you were in this really, really dark space in your mind, you know, and you mentioned like you kept on repeating, just generally not giving a fuck. Right. And whenever you're talking about this past of yourself, it's almost like you're talking about somebody else's story, almost like you've completely disconnected with that past.
Yeah, I have in a big way, man. I mean, it's still a part of my story, you know, but it's also a part of my story that I no longer hold in reverence.
So that's something that I'm very interested in is, you know, I'm sure a lot of people get, you know, addicted or they get caught in this infinite loop when they're doing something destructive, whether it be, you know, smoking, drinking, doing a drug, you know, playing too many video games or just sitting idle for too much. Like there's all these destructive activities, but it's so hard to let go of. And for you to like now have that foresight that you see yourself, and it's almost like you're identifying it as if it's a different person, almost like you completely remade yourself. The main question is, how exactly did you overcome that? And was there a certain threshold, like a certain action, activities, event that caused the whole thing to shift?
Well, you know, as far as what made it shift, I guess, was that, you know, this last DUI that I got. You know, it was definitely a big wake up call regarding, you know, my state of life and where I was at. I've been working really hard to get where I'm at, especially with the shop that I'm at and the position that I'm at. You know, I put a lot of time and effort into getting better as a tattooer and all that stuff. And so I got this last DUI, and you know, it was really humbling, you know, because it became, you know, apparent right off the bat that was no longer going to work, you know. And I was really lucky to have people kind of backing me up in the decision to kind of, you know, move forward, because I think everyone was kind of sick of seeing me fuck shit up, you know. But like as far as the exact moment, it's kind of hard to pinpoint, but I do know that around that time, you know, like I said, I had to really reevaluate what I was trying to do and what was important to me and what I was actually trying to accomplish with my life. And, you know, it became apparent to me that, you know, again, through the help of others, through, you know, I had a really awesome counselor in the beginning. He doesn't do it anymore. This little Colombian dude named Jose, just a straightforward guy, really cool. But he was, you know, he made it real easy to kind of, you know, work through some stuff that was actually were the reasons why I was using alcohol as that coping mechanism, to actually kind of break that down to what those reasons were, you know. And so that kind of put those things in the front, and being sober and having to deal with that stuff sucks. Right. And so that was, like I said, it was brand new territory for me. And that became the new motivation, was like, well, you know, I know what's going to happen if I drink. I know what my life is going to be like if I do this. You know, I'm good at that. I can go get wasted and go to work the next day. I'm fucking pro. You know what I mean? But what I'm not good at is dealing with my own shit, dealing with my own head. And I can fake it all day long and make it seem like I got it together, and I can be that charismatic guy at the party, or I can be that dude that's over, you know, I got all the answers for whatever fucking question you have. But the reality is that that's 100% deflection. And at the end of the day, I'm still drinking to not deal with my reality. And that, you talk about that cycle, you know, I feel like that cycle is created by fear and anxiety, period. No matter what that is, no matter what your coping is, whether it's video games, drinking, sleeping too much, you know, jerking off a lot, whatever your fucking coping mechanism is, it's fear and anxiety that's keeping you from focusing on your reality. And those things, you might argue that they're two different things, but they beget each other.
They coincide.
They create, and it becomes a cycle, and it becomes one feeds the other, and it just becomes, like I said, it becomes this norm. And if you allow it to, it will take over, and it'll drive your decision making. It'll drive your life to, you know, to do things that, you know, probably a normal person wouldn't do, whatever that means, whatever a normal person is, you know. But, you know, it drove me to be very self-destructive. It drove me to be very, you know, self-loathing. It drove me to be very resentful. It drove me to be, you know, really an ugly person in a lot of ways. No matter how good I was to other people, I was shit to myself. And so being sober and dealing with that stuff, and, like I said, luckily I had a little bit of help doing that. If I had to do it by myself, I don't know how successful I would have been, but I'm very thankful for those people that were willing to give me their time and put effort into, my understanding of what was going on. But it came to the realization that, like I said, I knew what was going to happen if I was drinking. I was a pro at that. But what I was not good at was living my life on life's terms, right? And so I had to kind of justify to myself that I was like, well, this is the new challenge. You know what I mean? This is what's exciting to me. This is a new horizon. This is something that I can work for. This is something that I can see, I can see rewards with. This is something that, I can get good at. I might not be good at it right away, but it's something that I could get good at it. If that fucking dude can do it, I can fucking do it. Right. And so, that's always kind of been my mentality with a lot of things, especially when it comes to like art or whatever, is, if somebody else can do it, I can do it. So if if there's one thing I can say to anybody, it's like, if somebody else can do it, bro, that means you can do it too. We're all the same bag of bones, one way or the other.
Right.
So, it can be done. There is proof that it can be done. So we tell ourselves that these things are impossible. We tell these things that they're too difficult. We tell ourselves that, we can't do it, and that's at the end of the day, it's us telling ourselves that.
It's that fear and anxiety.
That's it. And that's the toughest thing, is to take that first step out. But the more steps you take, the easier it gets, man. It's tough at first. It's not easy at first. If you genuinely have an issue, it is not easy at first. And, it's, but breaking that fear, knowing that, you don't have control over everything. You have control over how you react to things, and you have control over how you deal with things. Sometimes it might not feel that way. We get angry about stuff. We get sad about stuff. I'm not saying you have to be a sociopath and just shut off your emotions or whatever, but, I feel like, breaking that fear and having that little bit of faith in yourself that you can do something, that's where it all starts. Whatever it is you're trying to do, if you don't know how to do it, you're scared of it. And so you have to take that first step to, learning how to do that thing that you want to do. And for me, I wanted to learn how to be sober. I wanted to learn how to be, the best, better than I was before. You know what I mean? I don't know about, eventually maybe I'll be the best possible me, who knows when that'll happen or how that'll happen, but I definitely want to be better than I was before, because, my life was flashing on, the people that I'd let down, the people that had faith in me, the people that, really kind of avoided my issues because I never really, I was never really one to put my stuff on other people's plate, not that that's, I don't know. That's a tough one, because you should always ask for help if you need help, man. But I was never very good at that.
Yeah, that's something that I personally struggle with quite a bit. And we've spoken about it previously in our cast, where there seems to be like two type of people. One that the moment they're feeling discomfort, they go and tell other people, which often can be beneficial, but also often it could be hurtful, can be harmful. Sure. Not everyone's as, heartfelt as needed. And then those other people that just keep everything inside, keep everything completely locked up, and just burden themselves to death. I mean, genuinely, whether it be destructive or not, like having some sort of outlet to deal with that fear and anxiety, I think is massive. And it seemed for you, like having that quote in your head of like, if anyone can do it, I can do it, seems to be like that beam, that light at the end of the tunnel that just kept you fighting that fear and anxiety.
Yeah. And again, I can't take full credit, because there were other people that were helping me out. My family was real supportive. Believe it or not, the people within the program that Justin and I are in were actually pretty helpful. You know what I mean? When I needed it. So yeah, the biggest thing was just I had to kind of justify it to myself. It was like, okay, well, I'm now at a literal fork in the road, literal crossroads, and I have a choice, man. I can take the case, go sit in a box for a couple of years, get out, you know what I mean, move on as normal, whatever, you know what I mean, or I can work harder than I've probably ever worked in my life at something, and I can see a genuine improvement in my life. I mean, this is the longest I've been sober, over a year and a half now. Yeah, it's the longest I've been sober since I was a child, right? So like I say, like this is like new territory, and that's fucking exciting, man. Like that's something that literally gets me excited when I think about all the new shit that I got to think about, the new stuff that I'm going to experience, and how dull and fuzzed my life was before. You know what I'm saying? Like
Such a good way to put it. Dull and fuzz. Like, I mean, like life just passes you by.
It really did. And it was passing me by. I mean, I'm going to be 40 next year. That's crazy for me to think about how much time I wasted. You know what I mean? Over 20 years, I wasted rounding the edges on things. And, I like to think it was because, I was just, partying or whatever, but if I really look back and I really look back and I really look back, I was trying to baby proof my brain, you know what I mean? Because something was a little too heavy or something was a little too this, and it made me be a little too introspective. And because of that, I stayed drunk, I stayed high, and that kept me in a comfortable place, right? Where I didn't have to think too much about myself. I didn't have to think too much about the world, and I could just kind of roll with that moment. You know what I mean? And that was easier. That was a lot easier than dealing with the real thing. You know what I mean?
And you bring up a good point, because I've explained that before too, with people with being in that fork in the road, and like the position that we're in, it's literally, I mean, it couldn't, like, that was the most like fork in the road position I've ever been in my life, to where it was like, I literally try to get sober and bust my ass and like try to be a better man because of it. Or you're getting sober by just taking the easy way out, keep the felony on your record, and just go do your little bid and come out. And are you really that healed at the end of the day?
No, not at all.
I've always faced that struggle too with drinking, trying to cope a lot of things and being that guy at the party. And, I'm in an uppity mood. I can give people advice. I could give them answers on certain things. If they wanted to talk about music, I was all for it, this and that. But then in the back of my mind, I would just go home and just be fucking a miserable mess. Like I would just be depressed, like a lot of the times, drinking and smoking, which is one thing that I've talked about before. I thought it would be healing me, but in all reality, it was just damaging me even more. Like I would get inside my head more. I would just not be the person who I am today, and really feel that with the way that you explained it. And I just really wanted to ask, if it wasn't for the program and getting in trouble, do you think that you would have had the courage to go find help in a different way and to get sober? Or do you think that it kind of all roads led to the program that we're in, and it kind of had to get, like, I wouldn't say forced, but it was that own push that you needed from that program?
That's a good question. And I thought about this too, but the reality is that I was not looking for help. I was loving staying in my depression. It served me. It justified my actions. Like I said, I've been dealing with a lot of stuff over the past few years, but there's been a few things that have really stuck with me and kind of kept me in that mindset. You know what I mean? And so I never really fully dealt with them. There were things that I always just kind of pushed back and pushed aside. And if I hadn't had somebody literally grab me by my throat and say, if you keep fucking up, you're done, bud, then I don't think I would have done it. No, to be completely honest with you. I think I would have kept going until something happened, and then it wouldn't have been my fault if it did. You know what I mean? Like it would have been circumstance in my mind, right? Even though it would have been 100% an event of my fucking making. It would have been something that I orchestrated through my, aggressive behavior, irresponsible, actions, drunk, whatever. Like I was the reason why that would have happened, because of my actions. But, thankfully, like I said, the universe has a sense of humor sometimes, man. So thankfully it stepped in, and I was given an opportunity to, take my life back. And I don't want to give the court system too much credit, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, if it wasn't there in the beginning, hanging over my head, I would not have had that motivation to really stick to it. Now I don't give a shit. Honestly, it's been a long time. I've got systems in place in my life that I'm, confident in. And my life right now, in comparison to what it was then, because I thought I was doing pretty good then when I got that fifth DUI. I thought I was doing great, making good money. You know what I mean? I just got into a house with a fucking pool, tattooing at this, top shop, getting, I think I'm doing great. I got all these homies at the bar, always asking me, when can they get in? All this, da 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 da. No, that was barely skating by. I'd make money during the day and I'd go spend it tipping big, making sure, oh no, I got your drink, dog. I got this next round, bro. Da 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 da. You know what I mean? Because it made me feel good to see other people having a good time. Because I was not. And so that was
Go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. So that was that was my reality and that was my normal. But that normal was the complete, like I said, diversion from reality. And so when I was thrust into a sober lifestyle, without my permission, that I was given no choice but to really seriously evaluate what it was that I wanted to do with myself. And if I didn't have that push in the beginning, man, I don't think I would have had it. But thank goodness that I did, because now I got too many blessings to count at this point. So I'm much prouder of myself these days. Made a lot of headway on the things that were bothering me before. And so I'm more comfortable now with, dealing with those. I feel more confident in how I can approach those things. I got more tools that I can do that with, and a lot of that is just working through the bullshit that kept me in that space,
Yeah, for sure.
It's beautifully said.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it inspires me for sure, because I'm pretty, 5 coming up 6 months into the program. So it's kind of like I get to look at you and see how much more of a better human that, seeing how your growth is in the program after a year and a half, and it kind of gets me excited and inspires me to where it's like, I'm going to be following that same route in about a year from now. And it's just kind of cool to see it looking at you and just hearing you talk. And yeah, it's a crazy thing once when you get forced into the program, basically. And I think it was probably like 2-3 weeks after I had last saw you in a class, we had an assignment where we had to talk about how long we've been using. And it had tripped me out because I'm 25, 26 in 2 weeks. And it had came like I've never even thought about it. And I started using when I was 12. And I had been drinking and smoking for 13 years. I had been using for a year, more like literally more than half of my life. And I'm only 25, 26 soon. So it was like fucking mind blowing. I was like, wow, like I've really been using for a long time. And
that's almost all of your memory. If you think about it, the first 6 years don't really fucking count.
Yeah. And it's like once when, and I was like in the same boat too, to where I started DJing at a young age, and once when I went back, I started when I was 15. And then once when I was 17, I finally decided to go back to school to get my diploma. And I would be DJing weekday nights down on Fremont. And then, I'd have open bar. I'd be the man, get back home at like 3 a.m, wake up 3 hours later, go to school. And did a lot. And then, basically as soon as senior year ended and I graduated, I started traveling from there, getting out of state bookings. And there was a lot of good that was going on in my life. But realistically, only about a year after that point is when I caught my first DUI. And then a few months later, caught the other one. But in my head, I was like, yeah, I'm doing so good because I'm getting these out of state bookings. I'm opening up for some of my favorite artists. I'm doing my thing. So it's like the music life is up, but the personal life is like, it's a big teeter-totter effect. And
right, that immediate that gratification, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just weird. And then now getting to a point where because this is the longest I've been sober since, if I started using when I was 12, basically 11, first time. Like, I was basically like Giovanni and his fiance. Like, I've been both with friends of them individually for a long fucking time. And like my second, third month into the program, I was telling Neva, his fiance, I was like, Neva, this is this is the first time I think I'm ever talking to you as a sober person. Like fucking
Right. Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
But yeah, like I kind of say all that to kind of bring it back to like, I can't give the courts too much credit. I mean, we're basically paying $10, $15, $20,000 to get this treatment. So I mean, it's a lot of it's on us. But I've always looked at it from like the second month in, I started looking at it as a blessing in disguise and made a lot of relationships better. It got me closer to my dad. We always used to fight, and then our bond just grew and is continuing to grow, which is amazing.
Awesome, man. Hell yeah.
And it's just got me to be so much more sharper of an individual. But yeah, it's a very weird thing with the courts. How are you feeling like when you got to like your first few months in? Like, did that gratification, like, did everything start to click for you right away, or was there like a certain point into the program to when everything started to like really make sense and you started to feel like, okay, I can handle these, something in my life happens, I can handle it sober now. I don't gotta fall back on the alcohol if something, get into a fight with someone or anything like that.
I can say that's, I'm not trying to, shoot holes in anybody's processes or whatever, but I think that might be a little bit of a mistake that people make in a situation like this. Just, like I said, from my own thinking about it, is the creating milestones. I feel like for some people that's helpful, but to create like this encompassing, I can do it now, and this is that, I've reached this point, like for me, that I don't feel comfortable doing that, just because, I don't know what's going to happen. I know I'm going to be sober. I got last call tattooed on my fucking knuckles, man, and I ain't a liar. So it's happening. But what I can say is that I just know I got to keep moving. I can't wait for this finish line. I made it. You know what I mean? Oh, there it is. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I'm going to let up, and I don't want to let up. I want to keep moving. I want to keep pushing. So it was definitely hard in the beginning. I was, like I said, I was angry. I was resentful in the beginning. I was still trying to figure out ways to, how can I fucking get around this, dude? How can I sneak a beer over here? How could I, whatever, you know what I mean? Like the mentality was still there. It didn't just like snap, and it was tough to go through the physical withdrawals that I went through, because of daily alcohol use, daily weed smoking, and some other shit. You know what I mean? Like I felt so fucking embarrassed that I was physically incapable of, you know what I mean? Like I felt like this is what I've been fucking doing to myself, man. Like night sweats, fucking crazy dreams for 2-3 weeks afterward.
You had those.
Yeah.
That's real shit, man. That's real shit. And I reached out, but before I get into that, like I was not comfortable at all. And I hated every fucking second of it because it was so strange and it was so alien, to again approach that day with frayed nerve endings. And all I kept thinking about was that scene in Ren and Stimpy where he's pulling the teeth out and you got the little fucking dangly nerve hanging out of the gums, right? And now like, that makes you feel, that's how I felt. I felt like a dangly nerve that was just the air hurt, you know what I mean? And so once that started to subside, it was a real, kind of gradual transition. It wasn't like one day I was like, oh, I feel great, but it was like this, gradual transition. And once that kind of started to happen, I kind of started noticing consistently that I wasn't having these dreams. I wasn't, sweating at night. My artwork was starting to get tighter. I was just clear headed, like almost too clear headed. And
you took a limitless pill.
yeah. I've never done that, but I imagine. Yeah. But like I was just hyper focused on everything, every movement, everything that was happening. I was like, holy crap, this is what's been going on around me, And then that, again, like I said, that kind of became exciting. And I realized that I can do it. You know what I mean? I made it through that first little bit, so I can do it. What's my hurdle now? The court is a hurdle because you have to go through their list of things that you got to do, the other hurdles are, obviously, can I maintain this? And I feel like if you justify it, it's something that you really want. Because at the end of the day, if somebody wants something, they're going to get it. If they really want it, they're going to get it. If somebody really wants to get sober, they're going to get it. And I'm not saying anything against people that have a hard time with their addiction, relapse, and things like that. I'm just saying that, their situation is, it's, they have to manipulate their situation to make it a possibility for them. And that's tough, because that requires you to step outside of your comfort zone in ways that you've never done before. It requires you to rely on other people like you've never done before. And when I realized that I could do it, I guess, was when I started, like I said, I started seeing things improve in my life, little by little, one by one. More money in my bank. My art was getting better. My relationships were getting better. That pretty much knocks it down. But I started seeing these things improve. I started seeing a genuine improvement in my life. And I was like, I don't want to lose that. I don't want this to go away. This is giving me a fulfillment that I felt like I didn't have before, a fulfillment that I pined for, that I was depressed about not getting. And now it's coming to me, And so I had to, I made, like I said, that decision. I was like, this is it. This is where I'm going. And that's when I got my knuckles tattooed. My homie Jason Tritton did it for me. He's a good dude. Mm-hmm. And so but early on, if anybody's, listening to this, that's having a hard time with that transition in the beginning, I reached out to a tattooer buddy of mine up in Oregon. I told him, man, these night sweats are killing me, bro. These crazy dreams are driving me nuts. He's been sober for, I think, 18 years now. And this guy, was a roughneck from way back. And you look at him and you think he's just you think he's just going to eat your baby. He's a scary fucking looking dude. But he's the biggest sweetheart in the world, man. And he's been sober a long time, and he helps other people get sober. And, I reached out to him and I was like, hey man, how'd you get through this? And he goes, just eat a marshmallow before bed every night. Cause it's what's happening is your blood sugar's fucked up. At the end of the day, your blood sugar's messed up. All the sugar you were getting from alcohol, it's gone. And so you need to give yourself a little bit of sugar. So eat a marshmallow before bed. And I tried that, dude. Totally worked.
Really?
And so then I was able to get a little bit of rest, and that kind of helped with my transition as well. So, make sure you're taking care of your diet as well when you're going through that kind of thing, because, you want to stay away from stuff that's too heavy and the sugars and all that, because your body's going to go through, the same kind of withdrawals. But
right. So like a big thing that you mentioned a while back, you were talking about like the system, this program helped force you into making changes, but at the end of the day, you adopted systems for yourself. Yeah. Systems and, different routines that you're doing to keep you in check that are going to last way longer than this program will last. It's going to last lifelong. And like hearing that just made me think, because I have a family member right now who's going through an extremely rough time. I mean, this guy's he's very young, been in and out of jail like repeatedly, from the age of 18. I think this is probably like his sixth time going in, and anytime he seems to have something going, he reconnects with the wrong group and ends up right back in it. And every time he gets out, it's always like the one-on-one conversation, like this, whether he'd be crying or getting very emotional, saying how much he wants to change, how much he wants to get out of it. But I'm sure he means it. Yeah, I'm sure that he does. And it's so heartbreaking to see him like, from calling you once a week to calling you twice a week to once a month. And then you don't hear from him at all. You check the database and boom, there he is. Well,
it's dangerous out there alone, you know what I mean? And it's scary, especially when you're young like that, and the camaraderie that you find with that crowd, you know what I mean? Because y'all got one thing in common, your fuck ups.
Yeah,
so you find sad. Pride in that. You find pride in doing the wrong thing. You find pride in getting away with that thing. You find pride in, you know what I mean? That lifestyle. And that's something that, which, like I said, that was something that hit me hard too, was that, I was literally like, I was proud of being a fucking dirtbag. You know what I mean? Like, and you don't really think about that. Why you're a fucking dirtbag? Why you're a dirtbag? You don't think about that. But then when you don't have a choice, then you're kind of given a chance to kind of process it. And so I don't know, I don't know the answer for your family member, man. All I know is that I can tell you just from what you told me right here that he's scared shitless and he needs help. He wants help. He wants to, change the situation, but he doesn't know how. And it's scary out there because he's getting comfort and feelings of safety from those crowds and from that lifestyle. And that's something he's good at. It's something that he's, comfortable with. And going the other way is something he's not good at. It's something he's not comfortable with. And it's something that's scary. And it's something that he's not prepared for. It's something that he doesn't know how to do.
Right.
And so that's ultimately he's going to have to either be, the wake it's hard to get the wake up call when you're young, man, because you feel like you can bounce back from anything.
You feel like you're invincible. You feel like you have so much time.
I feel like, some people I think were a little bit more blessed in that regard than others. You know what I mean? Some people seem to get it right away. Good for them. But
so the main question I had was like you mentioned that at the program when it started, you were still resentful, you were still angry. That wasn't what got you through. It was a system. So although everyone's system's completely different as far as for what resonates with them, what helps keep them in line. Maybe hearing yours, whenever he gets out next time, I plan on sitting him down and forcing him to listen to this. So what's a system that you found that works for yourself and that helps keep you reassured, that helps keep you accountable?
Well, the number one was waking up at the same time every morning. Like for me, that helped out a lot because I didn't have that kind of stuff. I would literally stay in bed with whatever hangover I had until 45 minutes before I had to go to work, slam the shower real fast, fucking race to work, maybe get there on time, maybe be a couple of minutes early, most likely going to be about 5-10 minutes late. And it was every day. It was every day. And then just power through the day. I'm done now, man. Go kick it at the bar. Back to where I'm comfortable, back to where it's safe.
So breaking up the routine
that day. Exactly. So there was no real routine other than or there was a routine. The routine was that I did the bare minimum of survival.
Yeah.
Right.
You survived the day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, that was a big one. So starting to wake up, and what forced me to kind of have to do that was, we got to call a number every day to find out if we got to go take a piss test. Right. And it's randomly picked, and you got to take, so many throughout the month, and it randomly picks you. And so you want to get that, done earlier than later. If you forget to call, then you can get, they'll get you in trouble and you have to do some stuff. But so I was waking up every morning at the same time. That was a new routine. So then I had to, I was up. What am I going to do? You know what I mean? I can go back to sleep. And I did that at first. I'd get up, call the number, pass back up, but after a little bit, I was getting up and I was staying up. I'd have a little bit of coffee, I'd watch some shit on YouTube. I'd draw a little bit, whatever. I'd walk around with my dog, like little things, so I started staying awake. So now I'm up at, I wake up at 6 a.m. every morning and I stay awake. And that was a big one in the beginning, is that initial routine of waking up every day. Other routines were 3 meals a day. Before I was maybe eating, once a day. Guaranteed I was drinking my dinner. And so, 3 meals a day. Like, it seems like very simple human fucking things, right? But these were routines that I did not have, that I did not do. And so I started to kind of get, my body started to fill out a little bit. I wasn't so thin in the neck as I was before, So I started just kind of feeling better. And that kind of motivated me to continue with that, And then I started feeling a little too good, especially around quarantine, buddy.
Hey, yeah, I feel that too. Five months into the program, I've gained just under 40 pounds.
You're looking good though, bro.
Looking healthy, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I would be about like, I was really, really, really skinny, and I was probably like 125 soaking wet, and now I'm pushing basically now I'm 165.
That's a healthy weight. That's
Who
a
would
nice
have
healthy
thought?
weight.
That's
Yeah.
Nice.
And in that, I'm glad you mentioned the UA test, because I was actually going to ask that when you said that you would get into a routine of waking up in the morning. And I was going to ask if it had something to do with our drug test, and if also initially starting the program having to do the three counseling classes a week when you're in level 1, if that, if that also helped played a role into just a whole morning 100%. Routine as well.
Yeah, it did, because again, I had to create a schedule for my day where I didn't have to do that before, and I was kind of blessed or cursed, I guess, with my job, with my profession. You can pretty much show up and fuck off whenever you want. You might not do that well in the long run, but you pretty much do whatever you want, right? So I definitely pushed that limit, but having to create a schedule for myself and having these commitments that I had no choice but to attend. In the beginning, you feel like you have no choice, right? But then, hopefully you're finding things in there that you can take from them that are kind of motivating you to continue those commitments. But that helped kind of get me in that mindset of creating these routines, right? Because it's not something I ever really did. I was never really like that. I never really was the militant, up and at 'em, any of that stuff kind of guy. I never was, So being forced to do that kind of gave me the baby steps to kind of do it for myself, right? To kind of start making these routines and these scheduling situations for myself. Instead of showing up for work for the closing shift, I'd show up at the opening shift and I'd leave at the end of the closing shift. I stayed, for the whole 12 hours. Right. So, it wasn't easy at first. I didn't want to do it, but because I did it and I did it enough, it became comfortable. And that's something that, something that's always kind of wrong with me. Somebody said to me when I was young, the 3 C's, right? Consistency breeds comfortability, and that breeds confidence. And so you do something enough, you're going to get comfortable with it, and you're going to get comfortable. And if you're comfortable with it, you're going to get confident with it. And that could go with good stuff, and that can go with bad stuff, right? So
I like that.
But it's pretty basic, so that anytime, I just get reminded of that, when I'm doing something and it's getting hard, I don't want to do it anymore. You know what I mean? I remind myself, well, if I get consistent with it, if I keep it up, then I'm going to get comfortable with it and I'm going to get confident with it. And that rolls back to, somebody else can do it. I can do it. It might not be easy, but it can be done. That's all I need to know, is that if it can be done, then it's worth me at least trying and put some effort into it. And if I try enough, I'm probably going to fucking do it. You know what I mean?
That's dope. I'm definitely gonna start keeping that one in mind.
I like that.
Yeah. Man, about to wrap it up, and I just want to say I appreciate you for hopping on. It's really dope hearing your story, and just really cool to connect with somebody outside of to connect with someone into the program, and then take it outside of it. It's really dope. It keeps a lot of motivation for me going, because like I said earlier, I'm only in it for coming up on 6 months next month, and you've been in it, so just to hear someone talk about it, it's you kind of need that when you're in the program, because it's very extensive. I wouldn't really wish the program on really anybody unless they kind of need it to get the help, but like as far as like to do, how much you have to pay, everything, you're going to balance everything with your job, having to work around your schedule for check-ins with the judge, to go talk to your PO, house arrest, fucking piss test, a calling a number every single day, and if you don't call the number, you get in trouble for it. It's a lot, and so it's just it's really refreshing to just hear just all the positive that have came out of it from you. So just want to say I appreciate you for coming on, and definitely want to get you back on in the future for another follow-up, cast, and just to hear about more and to be able to talk about more. but I do have one last question that I want to ask you is in about like a 60-second response, give or take. What does success mean to Jason Capps?
Success to me means, I think waking up in the morning and knowing that the difference I'm making is a positive one. And that at the end of the day, my tombstone isn't going to say, "Here lies an asshole." So that's success to me, man. Knowing you're making a difference. It's either helping yourself or helping somebody else in a good way. And that the mark you left on this world isn't, worse than when you left, or worse than when you started, I guess.
Beautifully said. I couldn't agree more. Don't want my shit to say "Here lies an asshole" neither, even though some days I could be that same old asshole. But
yeah, I mean, honestly, but just before we wrap up, Jason, I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you. Like, your story and your insight on everything was very, very well thought out. I could definitely tell, like, you put in a lot of time in your own mind dissecting all the different responses of, where you were here and then who you are now, and even like looking into the future. And not many people are able to vocalize that, right? It's something that not many people, I think, even internalize, take the time to really dig their mind apart. And it's very admirable to have someone share that. Like, I feel empowered with this conversation. I feel like I'm able to hopefully help this family member out so much, man. Cause like, without getting too deep, like, I'm pretty much that started him on this path back when I was on a bad path and I was, 13, 14 years old. I like introduced him to this lifestyle, and now he's grown into an adult. I've grown away from it, but he's stuck in it. And I feel like there's a big responsibility there to care for this guy, to help him out of it.
So I think that's great. That's a good thing that you're wanting to take responsibility for that. At the end of the day, Giovanni, you got to remember though that it is not your fault. Right. That he is a grown man at this point, and whether if you didn't show it to him, somebody else might have. At the end of the day, it's not your fault. But for you to take responsibility as somebody who cares about him and to try to help him, that's huge, and that's going to mean something to him in the long run. So, just give yourself some credit. And, give your own story some credit too, because it sounds like you've overcome some things as well. So he might be, more interested to hear about how you went from where you were at to where you are now than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. And Giovanni was a fucking troublemaker. So it's inspired me and he's been one person soon as I got into the core program. I mean, we've been fucking best friends for a long time now. And he's just continued to show why he's that good friend from the moment I got put into the court program to conversations that we've had before of him seeing me at that dead rock bottom point, and always knowing the path that he went on from where we came from has just always inspired me. And he, Giovanni, you definitely, you deserve to have that credit as well to how far you've came, and just to take that responsibility as well. Like when you're caught up in a trap, once you can finally get out of the trap before it's too late, you'll always remember back on like who took the time to help you, who, everything, so he'll appreciate it for sure. Just being caught up in the trap, it's tough to get out of, like it's very tough,
but it's not impossible. That's the first thing.
It's not impossible.
It's not
if
impossible.
Someone can do it, you can do it, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, shit. That's it for this episode. Jason Capps, tattoo artist at Revolt Tattoo. If you're in Vegas, definitely get your work done by him.
What's your IG handle?
At Capsolutely, KAPPSOLUTELY. You can also get a hold of me, www.capsolutely.com, KAPPSOLUTELY.
That's a killer name. I mean, just right off the bat, that's a badass branding name, dude. I love it.
Right on.
Yeah, if you need fresh work done, make sure you get it done by him. And I've seen a lot of, if you got that mistake tattoo, I've seen him
Help
do amazing cover-ups where a lot of these people really deserve it at the end of the day.
help me, dude.
Sure they do.
All right.
But yeah, that's Jason Capps. Make sure you follow him. Go to his website, get some work done. If anything, just listen to his story, get inspired. He's came a long way. Absolutely amazing to hear that. That's Giovanni. I am DJ Mixwell. This is the Independent Mind Podcast. And as always, stay hungry, stay focused. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.